It's good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's what Millsy. I'm hometown commander. We're back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I brew my version 1.0 deck list of the commander in front of us on my quest to outbrew the Magic world. We're finishing, we're running on our way of week 4, our last week of Murder the Karlov Manor content. I've had a ton of fun bringing around the set. I hope that you guys feel the same, and as always, the deck list is going to be in the description below. I'm getting really tired of talking about one particular thing as of late, and it's counters decks, plus counters decks. I feel like Wizards is making so many commanders that care about counters as of late, and I apologize, guys, I'm going to do another one. Please don't hate me too much down in the comments, but I know as soon as clues or investigating or all of that was involved in Karlov Manor, I knew that one commander in particular would get a lot of support, and that's the original Lonis, cryptozoologist, right? This was a commander from Modern Horizons 2 that got very popular for clue decks. And so I knew that Lonus would probably be involved, and of course that commander got a lot of support. But what I didn't expect was a new Lonus in the Clue Edition product. And I think probably over time, Commander Mustard will be the most popular commander from that product, but I think this will end up being the second most popular, just for what it does and how it works, and we're going to talk about it because it has some fun combo potential as well. Lonis, Genetics Expert, is a 3-mana 1/2 Snake Elf Detective with Evolve, so anytime a creature comes in with a greater power toughness in this creature, we put a counter on it. Whenever we put one or more counters on Lonis, we investigate that many times. This is probably the key ability we're going to really take advantage of when it comes to Lonis and hope to put to the test. And the second is whenever we sacrifice a clue, we put a counter on another creature we control. So not on Lonis. Otherwise, of course, that we could create some 2-card combos with just Lonis itself. But again, this deck, you're going to look at that cost on the bottom and you're going to say, it's a pretty cheap deck, but I think this deck has some massive combo potential if that's what you're looking to do. I took a lot of steps at not making this deck very expensive, but I think if you really wanted to, you could turbo this deck up, with some more staples and make this deck pretty bonkers. So what are we going to try to do? Distribute +1/+1 counters. Lonis, to me, this deck feels like Morska, but without the white. We're doing everything that deck was trying to do, but we're taking the white out, and we're focusing in a little bit more. Because we're taking the white out, we can focus a little bit more on our green doubling effects, putting counters and things on. I'm not playing Doubling Season, but you could just as easily do that. In fact, I think the deck would become a lot better if you did that. Same thing with Parallel Lives. It's not in the deck, because again, I wanted to try to keep this deck a little bit down on the cost, because I think it can still do it without it. But again, between Doubling Season and Parallel Lives, for $80, you're going to probably double the potential of this deck. And that was a pun intended. Just completely already on its own. We still look some couple cheeky win cons that we have, but I think that could help you with that. Okay, so we'll take the two sides of the deck. We have the investigating and the +1/+1 counters. Now they go hand in hand, right? Because anytime we put a counter on Lonis, we investigate. So we still care about the clues. We still care about the tokens and the artifacts in that. So we're still using some of the cards that made Morska really good, right? Tangle Trove Kelp, one of the finishers that Morska pre-gunning introduced for us, making all of our clues into 6/6 plants at the beginning of each combat. What I like about this Kelp is it's not just our combat, it's everyone's combat, meaning that our opponents are probably going to have a tough time attacking into us on the ground with all of our clues becoming plants. Yes, on our turn, we'll still have to deal with haste on those clues, of course, if they came in this turn. But Tangle Trove Kelp is one of those cards that's going to help us in the game. We're putting this alongside Cyberdrive Awakener and Rise and Shine as those two other classic turn all your artifacts into creatures type enders. That can work, and that'll be there. And believe me, it'll do a good job. I mean, if we amass enough clues, one of these 3 cards is going to probably handedly end us the game in the right board state, turning all our clues into creatures and hurting our opponents with them. We're also using that mechanized production on the clue side to warn our opponents that we're going to run our way toward a win con if they can't get rid of the mechanized production. Same thing with the Simic Ascendancy on the counter side, but we'll talk about there in a second. One of the cards that I really like in this deck, and I ended up missing in the Morska deck, and I'm going to add that to it later, is Clan Crafter. This is a background that says we can pay 2, sacrifice an artifact to put a counter on this creature and draw a card. That's what our commander has. What I like about Clan Crafter is for the cost of just drawing a card with the clue, we're getting a counter on Lonus, which gives us another clue, a counter on it, and a counter on another creature because of its ability and that draw. So again, just starting to spread those counters out and take advantage of them. So the question you're going to ask me is, okay, Millsy, what are we doing with the counters, though? Like, oh, sure, we can just go tall with the counters, right? But what benefit do we get from them? Well, there's two creatures that are very well known in combos as soon as you can put counters on creatures for amassing pretty big board states. And that's Herd Bailiff and Scurry Oak. Both of these creatures are in our colors. Both of them, when counters are put on them, make tokens. Herd Bailiff makes 4/4 beasts, and Scurry Oak makes squirrels. So here's a way to go wide by just putting counters on them with Lonus's ability, if that's what we choose to do. As far as the counters go, you have things like Herald of Secret Streams and Dust Shell Crawler, one giving all of our creatures with counters on them unblockable. Dust Shell Crawler giving all of them trample, so at least we now have a way to go, a reason to go tall if we really want to, and hit that for our opponents. A Cannon Manufacturer turns all of our clues we create into food and treasures as well, meaning that now, for the purposes of Cyberjar Awakener and Rise and Shine, we kind of have clues and foods that can turn into creatures. Tangle Grove Kelp will only transform the clues, but we are playing Senator Peacock from the clue product, making all of our artifacts into clues, kind of getting us around that potential. The really cool part about Senator Peacock when it comes to Lonus is if we make treasures and we turn the treasures into clues as well, by sacrificing the treasures for mana, we're going to pop Lonus's bottom ability in putting counters on our creatures. And I think that's important. It's going to start buffing up our board state as well. As well as we're playing things like Junkwinder, which whenever we make a token, we could tap something down and it doesn't untap. Danny Pink gives our creatures whenever one or more counters I put on this creature for the first time each turn, we draw a card, allowing us to get through some more things. Arcbound Ravager can put counters on itself by sacrificing artifacts. This is pretty cool with that bottom ability with Lonus and just sacking our clues and distributing counters around to things if we need to. Extruder can sack an artifact to put a counter on a target creature, which can technically go infinite with Lonus, I guess, or you can get as much as you want as far as power goes. You sack the clue to Extruder to put a counter on Lonus. Lonus sees that and puts a counter on something else, and then you put that counter back on Lonus, making another clue, and just rinse and repeat as many times as you want to. So you could see we have ways to kind of have some fun with some of these abilities. We're playing Jaheira so that those clues and all that can tap for mana, help us cast our spells. We see things like Forgotten Ancient, which will get +1/+1 counters to distribute that around. Atrix and Nev can help us double up on the tokens being made, as well as things like Master Biomancer, having everything come in with +1/+1 counters when it comes in. Urza kind of fits the same boat as Jaheira, letting those artifacts tap for mana. And of course, something like Spark Double can either copy Lonus for some fun, or copy something else to give us that bonus. Playing some good protection, we have Wave Goodbye and Ripples of Potential from that Merfolk precon that feel really good here and help us out. Inspiring Call gives us some protection, Ripples of Potential especially on protecting our creatures. Doppelgang seems like a really fun card in this deck, making a ton of clues or a ton of something else. And again, just trying to find a way to take advantage of either making clues and putting counters on things or sacrificing our clues to put counters on other things. But let's get into our playtest. Keeping a 3-lander with Karn's Bastion makes a ton of sense, allowing us to proliferate. We draw Forest. I'll just get that Tangled Islet and tap. Nothing we can do turn 1. No point in waiting. Turn 2, we draw another land. Great. Turn 2, I have the Crawler, which I feel like we might as well. It doesn't have Evoke or anything like that, but what does it say? When it comes in, put a counter on target creature. So we'll come in and put a counter on itself. Becomes a 1/4. Turn 3, I don't really see a reason not to dump Lonus here. Get it in. It has Evolve, so next turn if we can play a creature, it's going to get a little bigger. Otherwise, we just have that ability online. Dustcrawler has Trample, and so will all of our other creatures with +1/+1 counters once we get there. But that's just not yet. Turn 4, we see a Gyre Sage, which is a pretty cool card. Can start tapping for mana the bigger it is. Kappa Cannoneer is 6 mana. We don't have enough for. I kind of like the idea of getting in Tamiyo's Journal next turn. So I think I just get that Gyre Sage down. It's not going to proc Lonis because it has the same power and toughness as it. But that's okay. Now we have 2 Evokers with that ability. And we're working towards getting that Cannoneer down. What's this? Turn 5. I like the Clan Crafter a lot. That's good once we set up. Get the Karn's Bastion down. We'll get the Journal down. And beginning of our upkeep, we investigate, and then we can sack 3 clues to go get anything. And that's going to be a pretty important ability for us in setting this game up pretty well. All right, well, turn 6, we drew one of our finishers here in Cyberdrive Awakener. So now we just got to get a board full of clues. I kind of like just dumping in Kappa Cannoneer here. This is going to trigger the evoke on both Lonus and Gyre Sage, getting them a +1/+1 counter because it is bigger. Lonus getting the counter is going to make us a clue. Of course, that will trigger Cannoneer. And whenever artifact comes in, put a counter on it, and it can't be blocked this turn. Well, it can't attack, but hey, now it's a 5/5, and now it has now it has a counter on it, so all of our creatures have that trample. And again, this turn we could take a pot shot at somebody. I don't really see the point. I think I would wait here. At next turn, we're going to be able to get something in and be able to do some fun. Remember, we have that Tango Crow Kelp, so now we. On our upkeep there, Journal makes us a clue, meaning Cannoneer is now a 6/6 that cannot be blocked this turn. We could just dump the Kelp in here. Again, it's an artifact. It's going to trigger Cannoneer again, and it'll actually trigger Gyre Sage and Lotus again. So that's a playline, or we get the Clan Crafter down, and we could do that trick with Lotus, sacrifice it, still get the card, and spread some counters around. I think arguably it would make more sense to get the Crow down, to give Cannoneer another power and unblockability, put a counter on everything. So these 2 get another counter. We still have Gyre Sage for the mana. And we get another trigger on the Cannoneer, making it a 6/6 now, or 7/7 with can't be blocked. Take a swing at somebody. Now we do technically have 3 clues because of the Kelp, but I definitely don't want to use the Journal. I think we're going to work towards using them as plants here to hit our opponent. We'll go one more turn. Wave Goodbye would be probably brutal at this point. If anyone actually has creatures on board that are relevant, that are just cheap blockers irrelevant, I think Wave Goodbye might actually. Let's see, we got that 3rd clue this turn. Cannoneer gets another counter, and we have 2 clues. So 2 clues, but Kelp would be 18, plus Cannoneer being at 8 or 9 at this point might knock at least one person out. We knocked the scariest person out. So we could do that, which I think would be my plan. My only thought with the Wave Goodbye here is I don't want to waste the board wipe, but at the same time, if we can knock the scariest player out, this feels really good. And then we can hold up. We could always sacrifice those clues at the end of turn with the Tamiyo's Journal if we wanted to get something. So I think that's what I would do. Wave Goodbye. Try to knock somebody out if I can here. If not, spread the damage as best I can and just knock some people down. We didn't get that evolve trigger this turn just because I don't want to waste the Awakener. Move to the end step and pass. Now here's the question. We had 3 clues, including the Kelp. If we really thought we could get something better, we could Tamiyo's Journal and go search our library. Otherwise, unless my opponent does something to me here, remember I have 3 mana up. So here's what I would do. I would sit here and wait. If my opponent tries to deal with my board, we sack the 3 Tamiyo Journals, or sack the 3 clues to Tamiyo's Journal, and go find a protection spell and just keep the board alive. Ripples to Potential would do it, protecting all of our creatures. I believe I Heroic Intervention or something like that in here. Protect the entire board. And then whatever we draw next turn, drop the Awakener down and take another big swing at another opponent, what have you. That's what I would probably do. Otherwise, I think I leave the clues there because we're going to get another one, making the Cannoneer even bigger. Those turn into 6/6 that we can attack with. And I think this is probably the pseudo panic button I would have here for the rest of the game. Keep this Journal open with 3 clues and just warn my opponents, hey, I can go get something from my library at any time at instant speed, and just push this board state in the end game. And this is the board state, to be 100% honest, I would be the most afraid of with this deck, is a Cannoneer that becomes bigger and unblockable with a Word 4 that's going to make it tough to deal with, and the Kelp or another ability turning all my clues into creatures and just pounding my opponent with them. But let me know, what do you think of a Lonis down in the comment section below? I know some people are tired of the counter stacks. I know some people are probably tired of hearing about the clue support. But if you don't like Morska, if you don't like that 3-color, I think this is a really fun opportunity to play 2 colors. I mean, the original Lonis is certainly great as well, and it's in the deck. I think I like this one a little bit better because we have 2 abilities that are more of a dual threat, spreading counters around, taking advantage of things. And I think this deck taught me, by brewing this deck, it actually taught me a lot about my Morska brew that I'd been working on in the background, and I think gave me some ideas for what that deck should be. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys next time.